Hello Canada, welcome back to another edition of the Canadian Citizen Journal. I'm your host, alias the guy. Well, oh Canada, what can I say? Poilievre had a presser out east today, and it seems everybody missed what he knows. And I'm only gonna play a little wee bit of it, and then I'm gonna break down the reality of the takeover of especially Western Canada, because power is in resources. The person who controls the resources, the energy, the real energy, not fake windmills and all the rest of this bullcrap. Real energy, hydrocarbons, controls the world. Brookfield and the elite, with their Grand Master, Carney, has been trying to do this for a long time. The same way that the Canadian government has been trying to take away the, wealth of its people. Now we've stepped beyond that. Now the corporations, the elite, are coming, and they're successfully doing it. The only person who seems to be on this is Pierre Poilievre. Now, he had mentioned a few times while he was running his campaign, I'm not sure if Poilievre is really aware of the evil that's in control of Canada right now. I know he understands, because he's, like I said, during his campaign, the stupidity of the oil companies in following lock stock with this green policy. But I'm going to show you the reality. The large oil companies have been taken over. And the ones that haven't are part of the game. They are the kings and queens, moving pawns around to take over and control and have a monopoly on energy. Let's get started with Poilievre, and then we're going to break this down.
Merci beaucoup.
In English?
Well, I'm glad that Mr. Carney has noticed my proposal from 3 years ago to develop the port of Churchill, which I proposed back in the spring of 2022. But what I find incredible is that he has been in power for 170 days, and not only is there not a single shovel in the ground on any of these projects, there's not even firm proposals for these projects. Let me put this into context. He was in Germany. The Germans built, from concept to completion, an entire LNG import terminal in 194 days. That's about how long Mark Carney has been Prime Minister. And he still doesn't even know what projects he wants to build, or how he's going to build them, or which companies are going to do the building. So what I think you're going to see from Mr. Carney is more big promises without any action. It's more liberal show business rather than getting it done. And I would say, don't confuse activity with achievement. Mr. Carney has been frantically jetting around the world doing photo ops and signing phony declarations that are unenforceable and have no money attached to them. But in 170 days, he doesn't have a single project underway, while $60 billion of investment, Canadian money, has fled our country, mostly to the United States, impoverishing our people and enriching foreign workers. So what I'm saying to Mr. Carney is I'm extending the hand of friendship to all parties. Adopt the Canadian Sovereignty Act, which will rapidly legalize pipelines, mines, LNG plants, ports, open our economy up to the world. It will get rid of the capital gains tax on any reinvestment that is done in Canada to make our economy roar. Our workers will have paychecks that grow. Our economy will be self-reliant. And I say to Mr. Carney, steal my ideas. take the credit for it. I'll help you write the bill. You can be the one to introduce and pass it. Let's just get it done. It's time to stop stopping and start starting.
Good morning, Maria Swaru, CTV News.
Good morning.
You're really stressing the importance of pipelines in our sovereignty. So
yes.
Why or why not would you be supportive of optimizing TMX so its capacity exceeds 1 million barrels a day before another pipeline is built?
Listen carefully.
So I agree with the first clause in your sentence. Should we optimize TMX? Absolutely. Let's increase the volumes that go through the Trans Mountain Pipeline up to 1 million. Let's do it yesterday. But that still won't be enough. We have the capacity to pipe 2 or 3 million additional barrels of oil to overseas markets. So let's do all of it. And, you know, I find it a little bit strange that TMX, which is still controlled by the government, is trying to shut out competition. And I don't know, I hope this is not a signal that Mark Carney is sending to the pipeline company the federal government controls, that they want to block competitors from also having pipelines. Remember, the TMX
He nailed it.
CEO has an interest in this, because if there are no other pipelines built, he can charge higher fees on the oil that goes through his pipe. So let's not pretend that he is just an objective commentator on this. We need more pipes. We need a pipe that goes from Hardisty to the Pacific, either in Kitimat or in Prince Rupert. We need a pipe that should go all the way to St. John, New Brunswick. We should have a pipe that goes to Churchill. We should have all of the above, because we have more than enough oil to reach all of the markets of the world. While the Americans have doubled their oil production in the last 10 years, ours has been flat, as liberals wage a full war on oil and gas. So the only way you're going to get any of this done, though, is by repealing the anti-pipeline law C-69, the energy cap, the industrial carbon tax, and all the other laws that prevent us from producing more. Because the companies will not fill any pipeline if the government bans them from producing more oil, as Mr. Carney has pledged to do. I have a solution, because we want to propose solutions. Pass the Canadian Sovereignty Act, which will allow us to repeal the industrial carbon tax, the anti-pipeline, the anti-shipping, the other anti-development laws, and unlock the potential of our country so that we can become strong, self-reliant, and independent.
Final question.
Now, the puff pieces, the propaganda, they have their wheels in high gear, throttle to the max, pedal to the metal, pushing propaganda. And all for the profit of Brookfield and select oil companies who have been working together to snuff out any small, true blue Canadian companies. Let's start with CTV.
So that's where I wanted to ask you about when you talk about optimization. First of all, in layman's terms, I understand it as you want to increase the capacity that TMX has and the amount of oil that we're able to get out of here.
And by the way, this is the guy that Polyev was talking about. See, he's keen. He understands propaganda. This is why he wants to defund the CBC and stop state funding media.
You're able to get out of here, but not through additional pipelines or anything, but through like making things work better. Is that a good way to put it?
That's a good way to put it. There's a little bit of mechanical stuff we have to do to the system. Primarily, it would be more horsepower. So the pipeline that we built hydraulically can move pretty close to 800,000 barrels a day. The new pipeline by itself, and the old one moved about 340, 350. So we can take our existing system as it's now built, capacity is 890. We could move that up to more than 1.1 to almost 1.2 million barrels a day, something in that range, with more horsepower on the existing system. And so that involves pumps, motors, in existing locations, maybe some new locations, and then power infrastructure to supply that, and maybe a little bit of pipe, TBD. So we're working through that now, but that's a very doable, very cost-effective project for us to increase capacity on the pipeline.
Would you argue it's a project that would be in the national interest?
I think it is. It's very much in Canada's national interest, I think, to do that project. Even
why I'm asking.
Now, key words, people. I studied propaganda for decades. I have TVs going all the time. I'm constantly reading articles as they're coming up. I have alarms set. The phone doesn't sleep. I don't sleep. Doesn't matter what time of day. I'm constantly barraging myself with all of these different forms. And it really sucks because I have to submerge myself in propaganda in order to actually see what's going on behind the scenes. And then from there, it's the research, the science, the numbers that tell the true story. This was done on purpose. Is it in the national interest? Well, yes, it is in the national interest.
Right? Because that's the big term that's out there right now, and everyone's wondering, in the conventional energy space, does that mean another pipeline, which is something some provinces want and others, like the one we're in, have expressed some reservations about? Does it mean more LNG? Does it, all of those questions are circulating. In your view, what you're talking about, is that something that would fit into that category?
I think you would look at, my personal belief, is that you look at the optimization of your existing pipelines as the first thing you do, because it's the easiest thing to do. It's much harder to build another one of the, another TMX somewhere. And for that reason, optimize the kit that you have, which you can do in steps over time, and then add capacity as it's needed. And then you have time to evaluate the bigger issue, which is, do you need another pipeline somewhere?
Do you have a gut?
That is 100% horsepucky, verbal diarrhea, meant to schmooze the viewers into thinking, that makes total sense. In the meantime, reality is being hid beyond a veil. I mean, these people have built a complete brick wall against what's really going on. We are a decade behind. The Trump administration has been signing energy deals and is drill baby drilling. He is securing markets. His funders, his sponsors, the people behind the scenes that have been funneling mass amounts of money through everything, through unions and all the rest of it, in order to take control of Canada's resources. Keep it in the ground and only ship it to us at a rebate. Not just a rebate, a huge discount. If you're a brand new viewer, like I like to say, please check out previous episodes. I've proven this. Carney and Trudeau, they did it on purpose. Tides Foundation, all of the rest of them, this is done on purpose through propaganda to shut Canada down. And it's not for the profit of the American people either. The American people think it is, and they are benefiting way more than Canada is. It's to take control of our resources. Whoever controls the energy controls the world.
Feeling on that issue, you're someone beyond your
Here's some more
here. You've
propaganda.
Long time.
For decades. It's a very alive conversation right now, particularly another pipeline this way because of exactly the case you've made for TMX, that it's diversified our markets at a time where we no longer believe we can rely on the U.S. as a destination for most of our exports. Do you think that there is...
Oh, now TMX is the savior. Really?
Do you think another one is feasible?
I do, but you have to have the supply to underpin the next pipeline. And so
This is where his true colors come out.
that's a lot of things have to line up for that to happen. And that has to really come first, like policy changes. There has to be a desire on the part of the private sector to actually invest in more production. And so the environment has to be right for that. That's really kind of the starting point in my mind, is there's a will and capital wants to be deployed to Canada. You know, there was a time earlier in my career where like Canada was the place money wanted to go because they could see the resource. It was a sure production. There's no finding costs. It was this long rectangle of production. So it's very appealing to an investor to look at Canada. And so getting that money back and interested in the country is really important. So that's, to me, is where it's got to start. And then you can start talking about, I need another pipeline.
So when you talk about policy changes, are you referencing, the private sector has highlighted, for example, emissions cap, C69. Like, do you have opposition to those policies?
Oh, Vash, she's pretending to be an actual journalist here. She's not.
I'm probably not in the best position to comment on that. I think it's the industry on the production side has outlined what they think is necessary to bring capital back, and I think the government has got some great people in it, starting at the Prime Minister level.
Really? True colors, people. True colors.
But really understand capital markets and what brings money, makes money want to invest in the country. And so I think we're in good hands. They'll figure it out.
Really, we're in good hands. Says the CEO making piles of money that the taxpayers paid for, that were sold, watched and allowed the sales of pipelines because they had crushed the oil companies in Canada. And they went around and pillaged and bought them up at discounted prices. Purposely bought certain things knowing they could control the Trans Mountain Pipeline. Purposely bought certain companies to control the LNG exports. I'm going to prove it. That's not hard to do. It takes a lot of homework, takes a lot of time. I'm going to prove it. But first, let's click on to the other propaganda. This would be global.
The two bigger ships will be going to Asia.
It's a sign of the shifting tides. Two vessels at the Westridge Marine Terminal at the end of the Trans Mountain Pipeline moving heavy oil across the Pacific Ocean to Asian markets, alongside a much smaller vessel heading for the United States.
But the very
A much smaller vessel heading towards the United States. It's all in the words. It's propaganda.
initial months of operation.
Oh, does he look familiar? These interviews happened 16 hours apart.
About half went to the U.S., half went to Asia, and more recently it's probably 60% going to Asia and 40% down to the U.S.
CEO Mark Mackey providing Global BC a tour of the facility, the first close-up look since the completion of the pipeline twinning. The construction was marred by protest and ultimately the federal government's decision to buy the pipeline to support completion. A pipeline that came with a $34 billion price tag and is only now seeing profits.
This was done 22 hours ago, and this one was done 23 hours ago. So an hour apart. Pretty much the same day. Right.
Estimated $1.2 billion being returned this year.
We're returning money now to the owner. The Canadian taxpayers or the shareholders in the system are reaping those benefits.
Are we? Are we? They went from like $7 billion to 30-some billion dollars over cost. They can't sell it. They're not trying to. They want to control the market. we have placed a government in power that purposefully helped outside companies take control and monopolize Canadian energy, bankrupting Canadian companies, buying out strategic pipelines and storage facilities because they know what's going to be built. They know what's going to be shipped. They know who they're going to allow to buy and ship. They're the ones, they control the government and the companies. We've got the head CEO, Carney himself. But listen carefully now, because they're going to throw all the environment out the door, propaganda, in order for them to make more profit. See, the environment only counts when they can control the market by manipulation and brainwashing people to think something's bad when it's not. Or somebody's protesting something when they shouldn't be protesting it. They have no say. This is all propaganda. Listen carefully.
When this vessel leaves, it won't be at full capacity. One of the reasons why is it can't get through the Burrard Inlet. That's why Trans Mountain is pushing the provincial government to approve dredging. That will allow for these vessels to be traveling more efficiently.
A ship, when it leaves here today, especially the bigger ships, the Aframax, they're 70 to 80% loaded. If you can fully load the ship, that means less ships for a given volume. And so that is a much more efficient haul.
BC Energy Minister Adrian Dix says the province's only interest here is to see the federal government reach capacity and find value on investment. Trans Mountain is looking at an optimization project that would require more electrification while increasing capacity.
It's relatively, as these project goes, inexpensive, and obviously a lot less expensive for a lot more benefit for TMX, but also for Alberta and everyone else than building a pipeline across the north.
It's a
bullshit. They want to terraform people.
Pipeline along northern BC that still has no plan or proponent. But
yes, it does. Yes, it does. There are Canadian companies that would love to be able to build that pipeline to get back their market share that they are being withheld from, because the government has jacked up the prices for them to use the TMX. They're in court. There's a battle going on. The government picks and chooses. Do you see what's going on? I'm going to prove all this soon. Let's get back to liberal, destruction of the earth and terraforming for their own profit.
even without it, Mackey says Canada already is an energy superpower, but one long connected to one market, the United States, now trying to connect to many more. Richard Zussman, Global News.
So they want to dredge. They want to alter. Ban ships off of one area to make sure that companies can't get anything built there. And even if they did, well, you can't ship it because there's a shipping ban. But yet, let's terraform. Let's dredge up the ocean. Let's disturb the natural ecosystem of hundreds of thousands of different types of life for the profit of one. And it isn't the taxpayers, people. There's 4 major oil companies involved. I'm only going to deal with Brookfield and their investments, but through which I am going to name a couple other companies that are in cahoots with them. Shall we start? Now, I've already dabbled on this before, previous episodes, if you'd like a much better breakdown on it. But we're going to redabble onto this. So Mark Carney's GFANS is targeted in a bombshell climate cartel report by the U.S. Judiciary Committee. Climate Control Exposing the Decarbonization Collusion in ESG Investing report targets Mark Carney's GFANS among other climate finance collectives, says the Friends of Science Society. Canada's greenwashing legislation in Bill C-59 seems to follow this playbook. Calgary, Alberta, June 5, 2024, a bombshell report titled The Climate Control Exposing Decarbonization Collusion in ESG Investing has exposed massive financial and shareholder coercion in climate finance. Professor Jessica Winks on the 1st of March 2023, testimony at the U.S. Senate on climate risk includes comments on conflicts of interest issued by the U.S. House Judiciary Committee on the Administrative State Regulatory Reform and Antitrust Climate Control report targets groups like Mark Carney's GFANS, the Glasgow Financial Alliance for Net Zero, and Climate Action 100, plus others, like a lot of others. The report states the climate cartel has declared war on the American way of life. The climate cartel is waging a global war for net zero against disfavored American companies, including those in the fossil fuel, aviation, and farming industries that allow Americans to drive, fly, and eat. It has described Climate Action 100 as a global navy and compared Sayre's efforts to the Army ground troops and an air cover strategy and silent bombing campaign by a newly funded division of the Air Force. Some 272,000 plus documents and some 2,500,000 pages of non-public information were received and reviewed, also noted in the report. Due to their failure to produce responsive material timely and fulsomely, the committee was forced to issue document subpoenas to GFANS, Sayre's, As You Sow, Ariana, BlackRock, State Street, Vanguard, ISS, and Glass Lewis. The report claims that the climate cartel imposes these radical policies by weaponizing ever-escalating pressure tactics on corporations. One of the tactics is forcing companies to make immaterial disclosure of carbon emissions, a tactic being pushed in the US and Canada. In Canada, Friends of Science Society has issued a number of open letters to the Office of the Superintendent of Financial Institutions, Bank of Canada, and the Canadian Securities Administrator, pointing out the folly of forcing corporations to waste time and money on climate risk reporting that is invalidated by the implausible climate scenarios recommended. Furthermore, they argue such reporting exposes companies to shareholder liabilities and lawfare by climate activists. Now, this goes on and on. As always, I post everything in the description below. I'm one of the very few. I've been told of a few others. Most of them just end up giving lots of X stuff. They don't actually do the research, watch, or read all of the documents. So I give you the actual documents, and I try as hard as I can to give you the actual clips in their entirety, the actual source, so you can watch all of what was said at certain meetings or blah, 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 blah. Moving on. Brookfield Infrastructure closes strategic acquisition of Inter Pipeline. This was a very nice, they did this buyout and they offered the share and propaganda. Reality. The regulator says Brookfield used abusive tactics in a hostile bid for Inter Pipeline. Alberta Securities Regulator said Brookfield Infrastructure Partners LP used abusive tactics. An Alberta Securities Commission panel has decided with Inter Pipeline, which alleged that Brookfield failed to properly disclose details around the total return swap it says gave Brookfield a 9.9% economic interest in its company. Brookfield already owned a 9.75% stake in the company outright. Pembina offered a very nice, no strings attached, non-hostile buyout, not takeover. There was a battle behind the scenes. Now, I know oil. I worked in oil for decades, right into the offices. I understand what's going on. I saw it happening in real time. Canadian security laws require shareholders with more than a 10% stake in a company to disclose their holdings. This early warning rule is meant to prevent a company from quietly amassing a large block of shares before launching a takeover bid. Inter Pipeline argued before the regulator that Brookfield's use of the return swaps with its counterparty, Bank of Montreal, could be used to block shareholder approval of its competing takeover deal. See what's going on? You wonder why the Americans, both administrations, the Democrat and Republicans, want our banking system opened up? They're corrupt people. We're going to move on. Trans Mountain Pipeline tolling dispute could stretch into mid-2025. This is why it's not at capacity. They're doing it on purpose. While the companies they own or are invested in or are part of this elite takeover, with a few large oil companies being part and parcel of it, they're slowly ramping up their productions in order to fill the void at a higher cost, because it doesn't affect them near as badly in the long run, because they are taking control of our resources. Oil, natural gas, all of it. Cenovus Energy's corporate executives warn it could be well into next year before oil companies resolve their ongoing dispute with the Trans Mountain Corp over rising pipeline shipping fees. The Calgary-based oil company is one of the largest contracted shippers in the freshly completed Trans Mountain pipeline expansion, which marked its official commercial startup date Wednesday. On a conference call to discuss the first quarter earnings, Cenovus executives hailed the milestone, which has been long awaited by Canada's energy sector. You'll understand why Cenovus is hailing this. We'll get to this. The Trans Mountain expansion, which runs from Alberta to BC coast, represents a near tripling of the pipeline's capacity from 300 to 890,000 barrels, blah, 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 blah. This is a really good day for Canada, said Drew Ziggle-Gansbury, Cenovus chief commercial, blah, 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 blah. Now, there's other companies that are involved in this they're suing. They had contractual obligations, they had a guarantee, and now the cost for them, because they're a small company, is way too much. So they can't get in on it. They can't produce what they want because it's costing them too much money. They're not getting the returns. And at the same time, they're coming out of a crushed oil field, trying their hardest to not be bought out or taken over, which is going on behind the scenes, like I just showed you that Brookfield has done already. And they've done this with multiple companies. We're going to get onto them, like this one. North River Midstream completes takeover of Montney Enbridge plants. Now, why did I bring up North River Midstream? Well, this is a list of just some of Brookfield's companies. Now, I'm going to read them off to you, but I'm going to specifically kind of stay within the oil part. But I figured a few of these would be very interesting to you. Enercare, home and commercial energy services in Canada. Inter Pipeline, energy infrastructure company in Canada. North River Midstream, energy infrastructure services in Canada. Warwick Gas Storage, gas storage services in Canada. All of these have been taken over by Brookfield. Vanti SE, SAESP, energy infrastructure. Oh, that's back to Columbia again. Now, anyways, so now you're dealing with North River Midstream. Now, they completed a takeover of the Montney Enbridge plants. With the strategic location of our operations across the Montney Basin in British Columbia and Alberta and the backing of the committed Canadian owner in Brookfield Infrastructure, North River Midstream is built onto an asset base that creates a robust platform for growth. In total, both phases of the deal were worth $4.3 billion. As part of the transition between companies, some 700 regional employees were also moved into new roles into the company. This is a strategic buy. They are manipulating who can and cannot have access to the Trans Mountain pipeline and the new LNG pipeline that just got finished. Enbridge closes the federally regulated portion of the previously announced sale of natural gas gathering and processing assets in northern British Columbia to Brookfield Infrastructure. Are you seeing where all this is going? Keynote, listen to all the big corporations that are involved in this. North River Midstream is introduced to City Council. This is Fort St. John. Propaganda. This is all part and parcel of trying to secure this identity that doesn't really exist. It's all part of hiding what's going on behind the scenes. This is the actual climate control exposing the decarbonization collusion in environmental, social, and governance ESG investing interim staff report from the Committee on the Judiciary, U.S. House of Representatives. I have brought this up on previous episodes. Competition produces not only lower prices, but also better goods and services for all Americans. Collusion, on the other hand, has been described by the Supreme Court as the supreme evil of antitrust. I guess that would be the proper name for the Liberal Party and Carney in general. Because it coordinates reductions in output that result in higher prices for consumers. Accordingly, U.S. antitrust law prohibits an anti-competitive collusion, and social justifications preferred to restraint of trade do not make it any less unlawful. The Committee of Judiciary is entrusted with the protection of trade and commerce against unlawful restraints of monopolies, such as anti-competitive collusion, in exercising the oversight of adequacy, blah, 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 blah. The committee has obtained evidence that a climate cartel or left-wing environmental activists of major financial institutions has colluded to force American companies to decarbonize and reach net zero. Through their commitments to groups such as Climate Action 100, the members of the climate cartel expressly have agreed to decarbonize the American economy by forcing corporations to disclose their carbon emissions. This is why Daniel Smith fought and changed the rules that the government cannot do this. The government is every person in the Liberal Party, and their main man, Carnage Carney, the general of ESG, is the sitting prime minister, people. Anyways, to decarbonize the American economy by forcing corporations to disclose their carbon, blah, 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 blah. Their disclosure and reduction commitments by handcuffing company leadership and muzzling corporate free speech and petitioning. How about the laws they're trying to pass where you can't actually say, I love oil and gas? That's as socialist as it gets. No, that's as fascist as it gets. The climate cartel imposes these radical policies by weaponizing ever-escalating pressure tactics that start with negotiations that with corporate management continuing to filing and flagging stockholder proxy resolutions and culminate with taking out the boards of directors at recalcitrant companies. The climate cartel's members include covenanting and collaborating groups like Climate Action 100, the Net Zero Asset Managers Initiative, the Glasgow Financial Alliance for Net Zero, blue state pension funds like the California Public Employees Retirement System, CalPERS. And I have, in previous episodes, shown the Caisse de Quebec, the Teachers' Pension Plan. Yeah, Canadian Teachers' Pension Plan. The unions, the federal unions, the provincial unions, have all been infiltrated. They have taken that money away from Canadian resources and put it into projects that these companies are all invested in, like Saudi Arabian pipelines, like building dams on indigenous land without consent in Brazil and burning rainforests. People, previous episodes. All of the stuff that I do is all interlinked. All of this comes down to the global cartels, which is Carbon Carnage Carney. Moving on. This is the scavenger buzzards that the elite are when they crush an economy, infiltrate a government, use the government as their main tool. Again, previous episodes. Carney, I'm surprised, isn't in jail for what I have exposed him saying, how he purposely told the governments, and in this case, previous episode, was in Britain, not just the heat pumps, but the fuel, the supposed green fuel rules and regulations imposed on the UK on companies that he himself was invested in. They make legislation forcing the people to do something, then using their same tax dollars to benefit the company who just so happens to be the one who gets the contract or owns the business that sells the product. These people are evil. Brookfield hunting for real estate bargains in Alberta amid oil slump. This is, hello? You wonder why your real estate's so expensive? Well, with the help of the government crushing the economy, dumping the costs onto the people who can't afford their homes, go bankrupt. These corporations walk in, buy it at a super bargain, rent it, wait it out, and then try to make record profits. Or even better, use more government manipulation to thus rezone areas to take single family homes and make them multi-family dwellings, multiplying their investment. We're talking billions of dollars in profit off of the carnage on Canadians. Brookfield Property plans shopping spree for deals in hard-hit oil capitals Calgary and Houston. Brookfield Place announces anchor tenant. This is in Calgary. Brookfield Office Properties Incorporated has announced Synovus Energy Incorporated will be the anchor tenant of their new 56-story, 247 Metro Tower, where? Downtown Calgary. That's Synovus. Very interesting. Suncor Energy Center. Wow, look at this. Who owns this building? Suncor Energy Center is being transformed through a $90 million redevelopment project, marking a bold step forward for Calgary's evolving downtown core. The reimagined property symbolizes a commitment to the city's future by fostering growth, innovation, and collaboration. Slated for 2027 completion, the property will welcome a full suite of state-of-the-art amenities, including conference center, the city's largest town, blah, 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 blah. Who owns this? Brookfield Properties. Yeah. You can't make this stuff up, people. This is the stuff mainstream doesn't want you to know. Oh, and I'll make sure to link on the Brookfield Residential. Find your new home, Calgary and area, Alberta. Yes. Oh, and by the way, the loaning agencies owned by Brookfield. Oh, yeah. The development, the changes in the multifamily dwellings, all of the rest of it brought to you by the Liberal government and its proud paid sponsor, Brookfield. I'm going to post this on there because this is a great article. Mark Carney exposed decades of corruption, hypocrisy, and shady deals unraveled in a damning report. Now, this ties into the report I just showed you with the G-Fans and what these losers are really doing to the everyday people of not just Canada, but around the world. These are the most evil people on the planet. Elbows up. I hope you read this article. Really, it's pretty much a lot of what I've reported on 4 or 5 episodes comprised into a very nice article without all of the exposure and the documents that I always put down below. But again, it's a great article. Very well written, to the point, and bang on the money. Now you've got the douchebag himself. Oh, pardon my French. Qu'est-ce que c'est? This guy, bought and paid for again, brought to you by Brookfield and the Liberal government.
Hello, Minister. Thank you for taking my question. This is Megan Potkins with the Financial Post. You talk about, an evolving situation and facts that are changing that have led to your government's position. I guess specifically, I'm asking about LNG. We also know that LNG projects specifically that are offering that could potentially involve shipping Canadian LNG across the Atlantic have been challenged by things like incredibly high capital costs, the restricted shipping season through the Arctic, if it was something through the Port of Churchill. We also know that it's faced political opposition, as well as, frankly, the risk that German buyers who might be running on hydrogen before the first cargo itself would leave.
Did you catch that? Propaganda, people. Listen carefully.
Political opposition, as well as, frankly, the risk that German buyers who might be running on hydrogen before the first cargo itself.
They're wording the question to already set disdain in whoever is watching this about oil and gas and how, well, that's a bad investment then, isn't it? This is the setup. This is propaganda. This isn't a real question. This is a setup. You can see by the reaction on his face.
Would leave Nova Scotia or the East Coast. These have all been raised. I say these have all been raised as objections to or challenges to a project advancing. I'm curious if you could articulate what gives either you, I don't want to say confidence, but credible evidence that a project could advance. What gives proponents of these projects who are apparently saying they could potentially deliver this within 5 years, the kind of confidence that the belief that this could potentially be different, that we could see a project advance that involves shipping Canadian LNG across the Atlantic?
So,
Okay, I'm not even going to let him answer. I got another clip with him just to show you that this is all propaganda. All of this is happening in real time. They're flooding the airwaves because they own all of the propaganda. They own the radio, they own the TV, they control the satellite, they control everything. They're trying so hard to control the internet. They want to take away the ability for people to see really what's going on. Here's the truth of the matter. This is the truth of the matter. So, ArcelorMittal cancels 2 green hydrogen-based steel projects in Germany despite attracting $1.3 billion in subsidies. Even with the financial support, the business case for moving ahead with this transformation is not strong enough, says its industrial giant. Well, what about all of the windmills? Well, bye-bye wind, hello coal. German windmills. I'm only talking German because right now everybody's so focused on Germany because Germany came out and did this whole MOU, this whole bullcrap like Polyev stated earlier. That's not real. It's all propaganda. The people who are watching it are going, oh wow, good. Oh look, Carney's doing something. Oh yes, he didn't get crap. It's all propaganda. Germany wants our LNG. Germany wants our oil. They want our gas and our diesel. 8 wind turbines. Now this is already old. They're gone, by the way. And this is an open pit mine again. Have removed, well in this article, been dismantled to make way for a planned Garschweiler open cast pit in Erkenslins coal mine. The windmills began functioning in 2001 and their incentives under the Renewable Energy Sources Act have expired. In other words, the subsidied money from the taxpayers ended. They realized they didn't make any money. They cost way more than what the coal in the ground could give. And believe it or not, the carbon footprint from the windmills is higher than good quality coal. Goodbye windmills. Hello birds. Hello worms. Hello cattle. Hello all the rest of the things that don't want to go anywhere near them. Get sick, they die. Now, again, just to kind of come full circle on the propaganda.
Hi there, Minister. Thanks for taking my question. I'm with CTV News.
CTV News!
Yesterday, we spoke with the CEO of Trans Mountain, and he voiced support for wanting to optimize the pipeline they have now. Are you supportive of optimizing TMX so its capacity can exceed 1 million barrels a day?
Is something that I don't think that's a project of national interest. So I'm not going to jump in front of that. If there's a case to be made for optimization, they will make that case.
They're already trying. They've now set that in the back of people's minds because they've been flooding all of the airwaves with the Putz CEO of TMX. This is all profit shares for them. It's power for them, not for you. This is full circle propaganda. It's going to give them the right to say, oh, well, by popular demand, we have to make sure we bump up capacity and spend all of this money on TMX. And then they can say, oh, no, look, we're helping. We're with oil. We weren't lying. In the meantime, who's it helping? Who's it helping? It's helping crush Canadian companies, crush Canadian oil men and oil women.
And we'll consider it through the normal course.
Short, sweet, and to the point. Propaganda, people. Yeah, you just can't make this stuff up. You just can't make this stuff up. This is the reality of where Canada's going. This is because of propaganda. That's why we're here. That's why we have seen our fall from grace. We've allowed ourselves to be sold out. And not willingly. That's the kicker. I really hope you enjoyed today's episode. Please make sure you like, share, and subscribe so that others out there can see, can actually touch and read the reality, the truth. Sorry, so sorry, just the truth, just the facts of what's really going on. The global cartel, they're out of control. And because of propaganda, they are this close to finishing us off. This government, this Liberal Party has one goal, and it's not you. They don't care about you. All they care about is your money and the control they can take by first removing any single chance of you being really free and independent and to have control over your destiny, be it in oil, be it in wood, be it in steel, be it in gold or any other type of mineral. They want it all. And this government, with the help of certain premiers, are helping them to do it. If you like the channel, you can support us. You can do so by checking out my clothing line and merch. Got some great stuff, really good quality. I'm talking top-notch quality, people. I don't mess around. I don't want... I refuse to be that type of person that sells junk. No, really good quality. Read the comments. A lot of people who have bought it, they all comment. I get a lot of emails. They're just tickled pink with the quality. And if you got the cash, hey man, you can e-transfer me. Email is right there. Please like, share, and subscribe if you are. Punch the notification bell. You don't miss a future episode. And it helps me grow the channel. Until next time, everybody, I'm Alias Tagay. You've been watching the Canadian Citizen Journal. Stay informed.